3 years after Seneca Falls, Elizabeth Cady Stanton became friends with a woman whose name would one day be synonymous with women's suffrage, Susan B. Anthony. Susan was unmarried and able to travel and lecture, while Elizabeth was busy tending to many children. A partnership was formed, or as Elizabeth put it, I forged the thunderbolts and Susan fired them. On November 5th, 1872, Anthony voted illegally, setting into motion a plan she hoped would eventually gain the women's vote. The 14th Amendment contained ambiguous language. Stanton and Anthony hoped it could be exploited for the cause of women's suffrage. If all persons born in the United States were citizens, didn't that include women? Weren't women citizens? Seeing an ad in a Rochester paper that encouraged registration for the upcoming election, Susan took 3 sisters and 11 other women down to the local barber shop. At first, they were ignored, and then asked to leave. But when Susan read the 14th Amendment to the registrars and threatened to sue, the men surprisingly agreed. They were convinced by Susan's promise that she could pay the fines if the government ever came after them. Her act of voting became a national story. Yet, 13 days later, a federal marshal knocked on her door. Seeming embarrassed, he indicated Susan was to be arrested and should come downtown, but no rush. Susan insisted that if he believed her to be a criminal, he should arrest her just as he would any man. She went to change, and upon returning, presented her wrists to the officers for handcuffing. He would not cuff her, but did accompany her. As they boarded the trolley, the driver asked for her fare, and she announced, loudly enough for every passenger to hear, that she was traveling at the expense of the federal government. Pointing at the marshal, she said, "Ask him for my fare." After her lawyer bailed her out of jail, Susan B. Anthony spent the months before her trial delivering a lecture titled, "Is it a crime for a citizen of the United States to vote?" She gave this lecture in all 29 towns of Monroe County and convinced so many people of her reasoning that the prosecution had to move the case to a neighboring county. United States versus Susan B. Anthony took place in June 1873 and lasted 2 days. With an all-white, all-male jury and a judge who had written his decision before any of the evidence was presented, it was hardly a fair trial. Susan had not been allowed to speak until the final day when the judge ordered her to stand and asked, "Has the prisoner anything to say why sentence shall not be pronounced?"
Yes, Your Honor, I have many things to say, for in your verdict of guilty you have trampled every vital principle of government, robbed of citizenship. I am degraded to the status of a subject under this so-called form of government.
The judge ordered Susan B. Anthony to sit down, something he would have to do 6 separate times before she was finished. and he sentenced her to pay a fine of $100 plus the costs of prosecution. But Susan had other thoughts.
Rebel against your man-made unjust forms of law that tax, fine, imprison, and while they deny them representation in government, I shall urge all women, resistance to tyranny is obedience to God.
Susan B. Anthony kept her word to the judge. She never paid the $100 fine for as long as she lived. Traveling in frozen rail cars, bone-jarring carriages, and often being refused hotel rooms because she was alone, she tirelessly lectured, lobbied, and petitioned, devoting her entire life to the cause of women's rights. She encouraged younger women to try their wings, as she put it, by cultivating their writing and speaking skills. And though she did not live to see the day when women could vote, she knew that day would come. In the year of her passing at age 86, she was still inspiring those who would carry her banner forward.